All right, this you have to see, and I have to admit this gives me great pleasure. Doug Mastriano is this big lie proponent who was at the Capitol on January 6th, and he is the Republican nominee for being the governor of the state of Pennsylvania. It would be a disaster if Doug Mastriano were to become the governor of Pennsylvania. But the good news is his campaign isn't doing very well. Apparently desperate to try to fix it, the Philadelphia Inquirer reports that Doug Mastriano is now planning 40 days of fasting and prayer to try to save his campaign. I love this for two reasons. Number one, he's losing and he's desperate, and that's great. And it's good news for the people of Pennsylvania. But also, fasting and prayer aren't going to change the polls for him. It's not actually going to do anything. So I say do 80 days of fasting and prayer. Of course, there's not 80 days left before the election. The article writes, the Republican gubernatorial candidate is losing some support among Republican allies as his cash-strapped campaign turns to Twitter memes and apparently divine intervention. These people are a joke. It was billed as a blockbuster, but it ended up a flop. If Doug Mastriano's big rally last weekend were a movie, its Rotten Tomatoes score would be in the single digits. Only a few dozen supporters joined the Republican state senator on the steps of the Capitol building in Harrisburg, some of them members of a militia group. The photos looked bad because it was bad and the press coverage was brutal. So what is he doing now? By the way, here's a picture of the rally I'm showing. It's like there's almost no one. It looks like it's just intern orientation day at the Capitol. Now, with the election 41 days away, the head of a conservative group airing anti-Shapiro ads. Remember, Shapiro is the Democrat who we should all just vote for if you live in Pennsylvania because he's a completely uncontroversial, reasonable candidate, is questioning Mastriano's tactics, particularly his insistence on campaigning within an echo chamber, et cetera, et cetera. So what is it that is going on now? On Monday night, Mastriano's campaign posted on Facebook a photo of two hands under the words 40 days of fasting and prayer with the dates September 29 through November 8, Election Day. Interceding for our elections, our state, and our nation, it stated, along with a verse from the book of Isaiah. Mastriano wrote in the post, starting in a few days, it'll be my honor to fast with you. Now, as the article points out, it's unclear who Mastriano expects to start fasting on Thursday, but this is all part of this Christian nationalist ideology. Now, of course, this isn't going to do anything for him, and so my message is do it. Do it. The message to the voters is don't assume that we have this in the bag. No risks can be taken. Here's the way that the polling is looking right now. Mastriano versus Josh Shapiro. On average, Shapiro is leading by 9.3, almost a double-digit lead. This is a major, major deal because the risk if Mastriano became the governor is that Democrats lose the White House in 2024. I know that some of you might find that hyperbolic. It is not hyperbolic. Pennsylvania is a state on which presidential elections can hinge. Presidential elections not going to hinge on Rhode Island. It's not going to hinge on South Dakota. We know how those are going to go. Many scenarios have presidential elections depending on Pennsylvania. If Doug Mastriano wins in November, and then in 2024, a Democrat narrowly wins the presidential election in Pennsylvania, be it Joe Biden or whoever is the nominee, Mastriano will try to steal Pennsylvania for Republicans. And so the consequences are absolutely massive. So it is so great that Shapiro is up nearly double digits, but do not assume we have this in the bag. The risk is too great. This one is just so important that no risks can be taken. Now, as far as Josh Shapiro, and we're going to have coverage of the Mastriano versus Shapiro debate. Let me remind myself when that is. Let's see. I'm checking out my calendar. It is, I don't know when it is. Is it tomorrow? No. I'll let you know when that debate is. Okay. We're going to have the debate. Josh Shapiro is not a Democrat that Pennsylvanians have to kind of turn their nose up and say, well, I'm reluctantly voting for Josh Shapiro. He's not the most progressive Democratic candidate, but he's super smart. He's reasonable. He's common sense. He's completely uncontroversial. He's actually a fine choice for governor of Pennsylvania. So it's all laughable. The prayer's not going to get Mastriano to catch up the 10-point deficit. The fasting certainly is not. Let them do it. Encourage them to do it. But let's not assume that this is in the bag, because it is so important a race, and we don't want to give them any opportunity. I have a really tough time finding dress shirts I like. They're either uncomfortable, or they're tight, or they're loose, or hot, or itchy. And that's why it's been so great to discover the commuter shirts made by our fantastic sponsor, Rhone. Rhone's commuter shirt is a reinvention of the men's dress shirt. It's the most comfortable dress shirt I've worn. Rhone's comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides the breathability and the flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way. Could be a long day at work, could be brunch with the family. You're just going to be comfortable, and that's so important. With Rhone's wrinkle release technology, the wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the shirt, which is very convenient. And Rhone is 100% machine washable, so you can skip the dry cleaning altogether. I've had a great experience with Rhone. The shirts are appropriate if you want to look nice or somewhat formal. I rarely need to, and they're just as good as a comfortable t-shirt when you want to relax or just move around in it. Go to Rhone.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman to get 20% off the most comfortable shirt you'll ever own. The link is down below.